Welcome back, friends, to another module of Mastering Etsy Print on Demand, the completely free course that I've created to help you be your own product boss from anywhere in just pockets of time. Grounded by years of small business experience, expert testing because I never preach what I haven't practiced, and crafted to suit anyone, no matter what part of the journey you're on, my goal is to show you the ropes, help you build out a strategic approach for print-on-demand success, and give you a results-based grip on driving sales using the SimplyPod framework that I've developed and that this entire free course is based off of. In case we haven't met yet, hey there, friend. My name is Mandy. I'm a busy Midwest boy mama, former HR director turned full-time handmade small business entrepreneur, and builder of print-on-demand shops that altogether have reached almost six figures in less than a year, all while not having to touch a single product or ship anything out to a customer myself. I'm obsessed with sharing knowledge that simplifies the Etsy print-on-demand process so that truly anyone can feel empowered to start their own journey. We are back for our fourth module, and this time we are mastering design. The focus of this will be all about one of my favorite topics. It's the third cornerstone of our foundation, so let's get down to it. In this module, we'll be covering who to design for, designing with zero experience, because I don't know about you, but I didn't start out as a graphic designer. We're going to talk about keeping it legal, my secret to scaling fast. We'll walk through and you can design and mock up right along with me. Bonus, a listing video in 60 seconds, actually less than 60 seconds if we're really timing it. And then, of course, my favorite, homework. So let's dive in. Who are we designing for? That is the ultimate question. We've figured out our products. We've figured out our audience. We're starting to really get down to optimizing keywords that we're planning on using for listings. Now we just need a design to go along with it. But who's it going to be for? Well, I hate to burst your bubble, but it's not all about you. A lot of times we're trying to think about what do I like to design or what do I think would be a good design? And here's the reality. It's probably not going to be about you. When we think about designing, there's really going to be four different approaches that we can think about. There's yourself, there's trends, there's niches, and then there's kind of this hybrid approach. So obviously, if you're designing for yourself, you're designing solely based on your preference or your particular artwork style. Now, don't get me wrong. This is entirely okay to do. I have an entire shop that is all about my artwork and things that I have created based on my art. I get sales, but it is definitely a lot slower because it's pretty non-specific, being just general artwork and things that have my artwork on them. But again, totally okay. Just know that it is a slower approach. Then there are trends. So if you're designing strictly based on the current trends or exactly what you see out on Etsy at any given time, typically these are going to be just generic designs. It might be a retro design or something with a Western design is popular right now. But generic designs like that are going to be a high competition and hard to break into because guess what? Everyone else is trying to chase down that next trend. And then there's designing for a niche. Now you should know what a niche is because you already went through module 3, right? A niche is when we're designing for a specific market segment or audience. In this case, we're starting, as you can tell, funnel down and find a smaller audience. And while it is a smaller audience, you're going to see faster growth because you're designing much more for someone specific. And then there's the hybrid approach, which is designing based on combining trends with niches. In this example, perhaps your niche is teachers and a trend is something with a Western theme. So you might have a kindergarten teacher t-shirt. Try saying that 3 times fast. And you might then incorporate some sort of Western or trending design or theme within that, even though the design itself is geared towards a kindergarten teacher. Does that make sense? So that is a hybrid approach. And if you're looking for fast growth, if that is your goal, that is the best way to do it because you're combining the best of both worlds. Again, there is no right or wrong answer in this. There is room for everyone at every table. It's all really just a matter of your goals and what you're trying to accomplish. So what are your goals? What do you enjoy designing for? Are you doing this to be just a side hobby for fun, or are you truly looking to make a profit and see some faster growth? And also remember, you need to enjoy what you're creating, or it will not be sustainable. If you pick something and you start designing, or if you start creating these products and you have absolutely zero love for what you're doing, you will not be able to sustain this business because you're going to hate it. And we're all human. If we don't like doing something, we're not going to want to do it for very long. So keep that in mind. Try to find something that you're going to enjoy. If you remember from our previous homework and the methods that I've been having you build on in each module, I told you to think about hobbies or topics or other activities that you or someone you know enjoy doing. That is why I had you start there and really do some self-reflection, because there is still ways to find things that you can relate to and enjoy and still have that be profitable and something that you can design for. So again, there's a method to my madness, folks. I promise there is. We just need to be able to put it all together, and you need to make some choices about what you enjoy doing and designing and creating. And remember that you may not be your target audience. That's normal. I'm not the target audience for a lot of the things that I design. My new shop that I created is a dog mom shop. Right now, we own 2 cats. I grew up with dogs. I love dogs and hope to have dogs again someday in my own home. But right now, I'm a cat mom. So I'm not really the target audience or the buyer for anything that I'm designing. It doesn't mean I don't enjoy it, but I'm not necessarily the end target audience of what I'm creating. I just need to know enough about it to create designs that are going to resonate with that audience, which I do because my mom is a dog mom and I know lots of other dog moms. So I can still relate to and design for that audience. And also be realistic. Your first few designs probably aren't going to be that great. I'll tell you right now, mine weren't. Most of the designs that I created in the very beginning of my other apparel shop that is now almost 6 figures, a lot of those original designs don't exist because it took some practice to really hone in and find kind of ways that I enjoyed creating and designs that were going to sell and be profitable. Keep practicing, because the only way you're going to figure this out is if you lean into it, lean into potentially failing at first, and keep going and keep practicing, and know that it's okay if your first few designs aren't that great. Keep practicing and keep going. Now, if I had to guess, I'm guessing a decent majority of you listening to this are probably more in the I want faster growth camp. That's okay. You're not alone in that. But to do that, you need to be a student of Etsy, meaning spending some time out on Etsy running searches is how you understand what the market looks like. Look for bestsellers. Look for Etsy picks. Look for those little popular now badges. Look for themes. Flowers and floral and cottagecore are very popular themes right now. So again, the only way for you to know is to start exploring and spend some time on this platform that you're wanting to sell on. And you'll learn really quickly what is trending and then how you can take your designs and relate them to those trends, or find and explore your own trends within the niche and audience that you're targeting, because they may or may not be the same. But the only way you'll know is if you start running those searches. And I also want you to know that you don't have to feel like or need to be an artist either. Simple sells. Here's a great example in the lawyer niche. Words on a t-shirt sell. Now, I don't mean just go slapping on a random word or a random picture and expect a miracle. That's not how it works either. In order for simple to sell, you need to understand your target audience and your ideal buyer. So in these examples, these are all phrases or words that relate to someone who is looking for lawyer shirts or lawyer gifts. These are in a tone and phrases and words that are related to someone who is in that field or who someone might gift to someone in that field. And again, in case you haven't picked up on it yet, there is a very intentional reason that this design module is number 4 and not number 1. Having a direction on product options and SEO and your niche strategy, having all of that kind of figured out and roadmapped will guide you in your designing as well. Again, there was a method to my madness, folks, I promise. This module and these courses and the order that they're in were very, very intentional in a way that's going to be successful. Now, I can already hear some of you yelling at the screen already, but Mandy, I can't draw. Guess what, folks? I cannot draw. I can draw a flower. I'm good at flowers. Other than that, don't ask me to draw anything or it's going to be a stick figure. But the good news is for all of us, you don't have to draw unless you just really, really want to. There are so many options out there now for anyone to be either their own artist or to be able to pull together graphics in a way that are still beautiful and aesthetic, but don't require you to pick up a tablet or a pencil or anything like that in order to be successful. One of my go-to platforms is Canva. I use their app for just about everything that I do design-wise, and it's one of my favorites to use because it's so easy. You could design everything from social media to presentations to all sorts of book covers, flyers, you name it, you can design it. But for designs when it comes to print on demand, I'm typically using a large canvas size, so either a 5,000 by 4,000 or even bigger. And then from there, you can really design anything to your heart's content. There are all sorts of text and font options. You can upload your own fonts if you have them from elsewhere. Otherwise, they have a huge variety that you can pick from to create all sorts of unique and creative designs, even if you're just planning on using just text. Otherwise, you can get super creative and add on all sorts of elements that they have. You can see here that for my dog mom shop, I've put together several images of clip art to create one image. I've combined several images with text to create different types of either funny or niche related designs. You can change colors of many of the elements. You can overlay it with text. Again, huge variety of things that you can do. You'll notice that on some of the elements, they have a little crown icon. Those are going to be pro elements where you do need the pro subscription, but many of the elements are free, and all of the effects and things like that you want to use, many of those are free as well. What I love about Canva is that the interface is also very simple and you can organize your designs. So again, it doesn't take a whole lot of skill or effort to be able to figure out how to use Canva for all of your designs. The other platform that I really like to use is Creative Fabrica, and this is when I want to incorporate more complex designs or fonts that I can't find in Canva, but that I then bring into Canva after I've downloaded them from Creative Fabrica. So they have bundles from a variety of designers that you can get both for fonts as well as designs that go together. So again, for some of my dog themed shirts, sometimes I will use images from a bundle so that they look cohesive together, and then combine that with, for example, text or other elements from Canva. Once I've downloaded the images from Creative Fabrica with my subscription, and then upload them into Canva to create my final design. Creative Fabrica does require a subscription, but they have a lot of really affordable options depending on what you're wanting to look for. If you just want to try it out, I do have a link for that in my description as well, but it is definitely one of my go-tos when I'm looking to create some more interesting and dramatic designs that I can't either build or create myself from Canva or by drawing them. Now, as you're exploring these sites, you will see details on images about licensing, or you may just be unsure whether everything that you see is okay to use or not. The short answer is that using pre-made design elements and fonts do come with restrictions. You can't just go out to any random site and just either download or buy something and assume it's okay to use, especially for print on demand. Because remember, if you're not drawing something on your own, that means that you're taking images from somewhere else and using those to make a profit. And there are restrictions on images that you can do that with. This is what's called licensing. There are typically going to be 3 main areas that you're sourcing images from if you're not drawing or creating your own. And so let's talk about each of those so that you can get a better idea of what's allowed and what's not. So Canva is the first example. Canva has both free and pro elements, and they can be used for print on demand. However, the caveat here is you must use more than one element in your design and make it your own. So you can't just use Canva elements on their own as a standalone image. You've got to put them together or add words or do something other than just an element by itself and selling it like that. That you cannot do. As long as you're making it your own, then you can use any kind of element from Canva and you will be fine. Creative Fabrica is another source that we talked about that I like to use. There are a few other kind of design bundle sites. There's Kittl and some others that are out there. They run very similar to Creative Fabrica and Canva. And so you just need to make sure you're looking at licensing. But Creative Fabrica makes theirs pretty clear cut for how you can use images and fonts that you get from their website. Look for designs that say that they can be used for full pod usage. That way you'll never have to worry about running into those restrictions. And then finally, Etsy sellers. It's another common place where you can purchase SVG and PNG files, and licensing for those is going to be determined by individual sellers. But most of the time, they don't allow for print on demand, or they allow it only in very small quantities. When in doubt, ask them. I also want to be really clear on an area that so many print on demand sellers and even coaches get wrong. Etsy has very clear terms of service because at the end of the day, Etsy is a handmade platform. And to maintain that integrity, you need to have a hand in some aspect of your product. That is directly in their terms of service. Therefore, if someone else is producing it for you, in this case, a print provider, you should be designing it. And so that's why I say in all cases, no matter where you're getting your design components from, you need to be able to make it your own and make sure that your creativity is standing out. Again, hear me when I say you need to make it your own. It doesn't always have to be drastic changes, but you need to be able to put a spin on a design, connect it to the audience you're trying to attract and market to, and really try and get creative. Because if buyers are seeing the same designs out there, guess what they're going to do? If 5 sellers are selling the exact same design and not changing it, that buyer is going to look for the cheapest option, or it's going to go for the store that has 10,000 sales and 1,000 reviews versus your brand new shop that may or may not have any sales or may only have a handful of reviews. So that is another reason why standing out and being creative is going to be so important to your success. Which brings me a little bit into the next topic of keeping it legal. So Etsy's got its own rule book that you need to follow and make sure you're aware of. But there's also cases where we're talking about court of law legal, not just Etsy legal. And so some of these might be obvious, but others may not be quite as much. But as you can imagine, one of the big things out there is do not copy other designs. That's just a big no, guys. That's icky, that's gross. Don't knowingly copy other designs. Don't use registered trademarks. The mouse ears, the Grinch hand, those are all trademarked and can get you into a lot of hot water. It's just not okay to do. And minor changes or simply changing a color doesn't make it any more okay either. This is all intellectual property infringement and can result in getting reported to and shut down by Etsy. Now, I say all of this not to scare you. None of this should create fear that stops you from pursuing print on demand or a product-based business like this. It just means you need to do your due diligence because some websites, including Etsy sellers, don't always check for copyright or trademark when they're posting designs on their websites to sell or have other people buy from them. It's your responsibility as a designer, as the creator of your product, to make sure there are no IP issues with your design elements, regardless of where you get them. Just because you bought it from someone else doesn't always mean it's legit. Copyright on images and designs is a lot harder to track down, but there are definitely ways that you can at least do your due diligence with things like keywords and other components of your listing and design to make sure that you are being responsible and doing your best. Doesn't mean things will slip through the cracks, but you should never be knowingly infringing on someone else's copyright or trademark. So let's look at a couple examples. When you're on the USPTO.gov website, I usually go to the Find It Fast and then click on the TESS or Trademark Electronic Search System link. From there, I do a basic word mark search, and then I'm looking at specifically live trademarks. Dead trademarks mean that those trademarks are not actively registered anymore. So I'm actually going to type in one that I know is already trademarked, and that is boy mom. So if we look at the options that come up, we can see the very first one listed. If we look under that reg number, that's registered number column, there's no number there. That means that it's not officially registered yet. So in theory, this person applied and had filed for their trademark earlier this year, but it also means that it's not active. So if we wanted to use that term on something that they're trademarking for, in theory, it is not active yet, and so it is not off limits to use. If we look at the next one on the list, we can see that that one is registered and trademarked specifically for beer glasses, beer cans, drinking glasses, things like that. So that means while it's the same phrase, they have it trademarked for a very specific use, and we can't use it for those types of items. And then if we look at another one, that is where we see the IC025. So if you are making apparel and clothing or anything like that, that means that this person has trademarked the term boy mom, and it cannot be used by anyone else on those types of goods and services. So that is why it is actually a term that is not permitted for clothing or apparel or things like that. And I do know that this person does report shops to Etsy who are using their trademark term. They're not obviously going to catch all of them, so that's why you will still see plenty of them out there, but they can and do report those that they see, and they have every right to, because they spend a whole lot of money on their trademark to have that be in place, and they legally own the rights to that phrase for those specific goods and services. And yes, I can already hear so many of you yelling at me through your screen, but there's so many out there who aren't following the rules. Just go to Etsy and look at all of the Disney merch that's out there. I'm going to tell you exactly what I tell our son. I don't care about what other people are doing. I care about what you are doing and giving you the best information possible so that you can be successful and not run into any long-term troubles down the road. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Operate your shop with originality, integrity, and honesty. Run it like your business because it is your business. That is the moral of the story. But now to the fun part. Let's design something. For starters, I want to spill my secret for scaling fast. If you've seen the intro to any of these modules, you know that I've scaled my print-on-demand shops collectively to almost 6 figures in less than a year. There's over 1,000 listings collectively between them, over 2,500 orders. I have scaled fast, and it was intentional and with a particular strategy. And that is what I call batching designing. So combining all of the work that we've put in thus far with selecting our products, having a strategy for keywords and niches, and then using that to batch designs. By putting all of that together, you use that homework so that once you're ready, you can quickly create more listings, more designs that will target your niches. Let me show you exactly what I mean. So when I am starting the batching process, typically I will go through and create several designs that I know I will be using on similar or same color of shirts. I'll create them for the same niche. In this case, I'm going to create them in a similar style, but they can be all different designs, and I'll try to create anywhere between 8 to 10 or more at a time so that I've got several different design styles to work with. And then as I start creating them, I then reuse those same templates, if you will, to create batches for another niche in that same style. So in this example, I created one batch with an original design for Yorkies for my dog mom shop. And then I used the same file. I copied that file into a new one, and then I start using it for another breed of dogs, because then I have sub niches and my sections are divided out by breeds. I create the template of designs once, and then I reuse it across a variety of niches, which then means I can create different mockups. I can then use different keywords, and they all go under different listings. So it's a really fast way to take a set of designs and then replicate them. Because if you think about it, if I'm creating 10 different designs in one batch, and then I'm copying that and repeating that batch across 5 more breeds, that means I've just created 50 different designs and 50 different listings that I can use in my shop just from one batch of 10 designs. And as you can see, depending on what the design is, sometimes I have to make minor tweaks along the way as I'm creating these batches for different breeds in this case, but the same principle applies, and I'm still doing it much faster than trying to create 10 new designs or 50 new listings every single time and trying to come up with something new and different. It's also one of the benefits of having a niche or having a broad niche shop where I've kind of set a direction or a theme for the shop. It's then much easier to reuse some similar designs and simply use them in different ways. You could do the same principle with professions, and so if you have a shop that's devoted to professions or occupations, you could take the same principle, come up with 10 different styles or designs, and then reuse those files 10 and 15 different times depending on how many different professions you want to come up with. So you could have it say teacher on one design and then kindergarten, in a different font below it, with maybe some teacher themed elements or clip art in there. And then you could then simply swap out and replicate that design for second grade teacher or middle school teacher, or change it to, same font and design, and it could be school principal. So there are a ton of different directions you could go with that. But that is why I like to work within batches, because then I can use those designs in a lot of different ways, not having to come up with something new and different every single time. Then once you have your designs, you're ready to roll, you need to put those on a mockup. And let me tell you, friends, this is not the place to skimp when we talk about investments and things that we really need for our shop. Mockups, you cannot skimp here, guys. There are a few different styles I want to talk about when it comes to mockups and what you'll typically see. Keep in mind, online shopping is incredibly visual. Mockups need to stand out and stop the scroll. Again, it is your first impression for buyers scrolling through their search query on Etsy, and you need to catch their attention, because on Etsy, the bar is higher because there are just so many other great sellers out there. You need to be able to stand out. So when we think about mockups, there's the one that you typically get from your print provider, usually the plain white background, or it might be on a person with a white background behind them. That's typically coming from your print provider. Then there's also what's called a flat lay. So it looks just like this, where typically the item is laid out flat with other props around it. Sometimes it's a white background. Sometimes it might be on more like a wood or aesthetic background. But typically this is what it looks like. There's no model that it's on. And then there's lifestyle, where you typically have more of an aesthetic happening, both in the way that an item is stylized in the picture, as well as the background or props or environments that the image is shot in. So be honest, which would you choose? If you were scrolling through Etsy and you were looking at a design that said good vibes only, what would be kind of your good, better, best? First of all, let's just say I absolutely do not recommend using the stock photo from your print provider. I will be the first to tell you, I love Printify, but I will not use their mockups, especially for apparel. Now, other products can be fine, like blankets and mugs. Some of those are pretty good. But when it comes to apparel, there is kind of an expectation on Etsy that there is an aesthetic to it. When there is just a plain white background on there, or a very plain generic mockup, these are not optimized for Etsy, nor do they fit the aesthetic. Some print providers have decent options for like decor, as I mentioned, and those are fine. But for apparel, do not use the plain ones coming from the print provider. Flat lays are a little better. There's quite a few out there that do really, really well, and those are fine. Just, again, make sure that you're finding aesthetics that look good on the screen, that don't look super wrinkled, that actually look like a real mock-up, not something that's just been photoshopped together. You'll see them as you scroll, and there are quite a few reputable Etsy sellers out there that make really good flat lay mockups for products. Flat lays are usually the mockups that are going to be in bundles, so you can usually find a really good price for these. So these are a decent and better option, at least compared to the ones coming from a print provider. Now, in my own experience and from the experiences that I've worked with others on, lifestyle mockups are the preferred aesthetic for Etsy, especially for women's apparel and accessories and some decor. Again, sometimes it depends on what it is, but if we're talking strictly about apparel, you need to have the aesthetics of a good either lifestyle mockup or a really good flat lay in order to stand out and catch the attention of buyers. As I've said before, one of my go-to places and preferences is to buy from other Etsy sellers. And to do that for mockups, you simply type in the brand and mockup right behind it. So you can see here for Gildan sweatshirts, there are a ton of great options. The Mockup, Loft, and Moody Mockups. Those are all some really great shops that I've purchased from in the past, and some of these I have their whole shop bundles, and it gives you a great variety to pick from, and it gives you a nice cohesive aesthetic for your shop. You can also find color charts out here, and sometimes with those bundles they will actually include color charts and size charts as well, so sometimes I'll take a look at those before buying some of those things individually, because you can buy size charts out here as well. There are a ton of great options. Some of them even let you edit them yourself in Canva as well, which is sometimes a nice feature. You can also find some other mockups out here too, other than just apparel. So mugs is another great option for finding from other Etsy sellers. There's some pretty cute ones. And again, some of these mockup sellers, like Mockup Loft, I know, they actually have mugs as part of their whole shop bundle. So definitely look at those if you're planning on purchasing several. The other platform that I really like to use for very specific reasons is placeit.net. It does require a subscription if you want to use their images without a watermark, so there is extra cost. So I definitely recommend starting with Etsy. But the purpose of Placeit for me is, number one, it does have some different aesthetics for apparel. I will caution using generic mockups like these for apparel, simply because you don't know the brand that they're using necessarily unless they specify it in the mockup details. If it's generic, that means that it may not match what your product is, and so a customer might notice that if the fit or style is slightly different. So just be aware of that. But I do use Placeit for things like blankets is a great one, because those are a little more generic, but blankets and pillows and things like that are really nice because you can get some great lifestyle images. You simply just need to upload the image that you're using for your design, and depending on what it is, so if it's like pillows or sheets in the background, like if it's on a bedding set, you can actually change the colors of those. For certain bathroom like towels, you can change the curtain colors. So it does give you some flexibility with that as well, which makes it a nice resource for those. Your biggest priority should be your first listing photo. Again, I've said it before and I will say it again. This is your very first impression when your listing appears in someone's search results on Etsy. It's the very first thing that they see and will determine whether or not they click into your listing. Therefore, the first one should be your best. If you are not wanting to make a huge investment in mockups upfront, start with a couple and use those, and then you could just use them as your first image, or you can reuse them for some of the subsequent images to show different colors or things like that. But your first image should be your best. Then the rest of your picture spots, you get 10 of them. They can be additional mock-ups. You could try different styles of flat lays. You can and should include color charts if you're selling apparel. Same thing with size charts or listing details. All of these things can and should be included in other photo spots within your shop, but that very first image needs to be your best. The best part in all of this, though, is coming up with your photos for your shop and using those mock-ups. You can batch this part too. Let's take a look. One of my tricks to staying organized in Canva is I have all of my mock-ups per style in one single file. So then when I'm ready to create a batch of mock-ups, all I do is copy that and I'm ready to start. And so typically the first thing I do is I use the grid view. I remove all of the mockups that I'm not planning on using for this particular design. And I also know that I can only use up to 10 spots, so I make sure that I've reduced that number to fit that as well. And I also keep my size chart in there, so again, it's all ready to go and super efficient. And then I simply start adding in my designs. Remember, I batched a bunch of them already, and I do all of my batching for mockups second. So I definitely work in batches and have found that to be super efficient when it comes to doing a lot of listings all at once. So then as I'm adding my design, I'm going through, I'm making all of the adjustments. I want it to make sure it looks correct based on the color, the spacing, the angle. I want all of those little attentions to detail in there. And then as I'm copying in these designs, I don't leave the designs alone. I actually adjust the transparency once I've got it on the mockup, because if you were to leave that transparency at a full 100%, it's going to be way too bright on the screen and way too crisp on the screen when a customer is looking at it, and they're going to think that that's exactly what they're going to get, and it's not. And that is one quick way to have a very disappointed customer, is by not having that image on your mockup look realistic based on what they're going to get. So I always make sure I lower my transparency within Canva on that design image to roughly the 75 to 80 mark. And that will allow it to be more realistic. Sometimes I'll need to adjust it if there's like a filter on the mockup and it's less bright or more bright. But most of the time, 75 to 80 for that transparency setting is about right. And what's nice is that as I'm creating these batches, I get through one whole set, I copy that exact file into a new one, and then I move on to my next design. And because of the way Canva works, as I'm dragging each design over, it's already adjusted in that spot for transparency and angle, so I don't have to keep redoing that. And that is why I typically am working with the same styles and colors for each round of designs, so that I don't have to touch any of that as much as possible. Again, my goal here is to be able to work quickly and efficiently, but still have it look nice and still make those minor adjustments along the way to make sure each design looks perfect and as realistic on the mockup as possible. And again, as I said, when I'm doing designs, if I'm creating, let's say 10 designs at a time, then as I'm going through and batching those mockups, that means I'm going to do 10 sets of mockups in that batch, so that then when I get to the next step of uploading all of those to Printify, I do those in a batch. So then I will upload and create all 10 of those listings and designs in Printify and publish those as a batch. And then my last step is to then finalize each of those in Etsy for those same 10 designs. So that is typically my exact process that I use to really efficiently get through a lot of designs, a lot of mockups, a lot of Printify uploads, and then a lot of Etsy updates all in one sitting. And so that would get me 10 listings. And so in about that amount of time, I can usually knock that out in probably about an hour or so, because I've used that method so many times and because that is just now my standard process. It just goes so much faster. So that is how I can so quickly, even with this new shop that I created around dog moms, I had 100 listings up in just a couple weeks time, because I could sit down and do each of them in batches based around a set of designs that I created. And then as I determined from those designs, as they start selling, which of them are going to do best, then I can kind of go back and create another set of designs around that are similar, but I can make like slight adjustments, whether it's adding in different colors or different styles or different fonts, because I'm creating them in volume, there's greater chance for them to get seen across a variety of different niches, in this case breeds of dogs. And so as I start to get a sense of which of those design styles sell the best for each type of breed, then I can start to create, again, similar designs from that based on the knowledge that I'm getting. But I can only do that by having volume and starting to learn and understand what is selling well. So if you can really get into the habit of, just going out, creating 5 to 10 designs at a time, sit down, create those, and then you have your batch. Then from there, create your mock-up for each of those designs. Then create your product in Printify for those designs. Then go update and finalize them with your mockups in Etsy for those designs. And then you can rinse, wash, repeat, so that you can build that volume, so that you can then understand what customer behavior will look like and what they will be drawn to, because you've got that volume, and there's a greater chance for your listings to be seen out in the marketplace. I promised a bonus, and so here it is. It's my super fast hack for making a listing video for your Etsy listing. Etsy loves to see these listing videos, but with print on demand, they can be hard to wrap your head around because most of the time you don't have the product with you. But there is a way, and guess what? We can use exactly what we just created with batching mockups to do it, and it'll take less than 60 seconds. Let's go. So starting with the very last mockup that I created, let's use this one as an example. I've got all 10 of my images loaded in there. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this timer and change it to 1. So that means each slide or each image will last for 1 second, giving me a 10-second video in this case. Then I'm just going to download it as an MP4 video and save it. Then we're going to head to that completed listing in Etsy and go to the video section. And then we're just going to upload the video that we saved. We'll let that process and upload. And once it's there, we can crop it if we need to, or we can play it if we want to see what it looks like and make sure it's what we expect. But it is more or less ready to go. And so then if you've made any adjustments, you can hit apply. Otherwise, you can simply hit the publish button. That's it. And then if you want to see what it looks like on Etsy, if you click on your listing, you can actually do view on Etsy, and it will take you right to it. And you'll see that the second image is now a video, and so you can see exactly what that looks like. Same thing happens if someone is scrolling in their search results. If they hover over your listing, this is the video that they'll see right from their search results. And that brings us to the end of our design foundation, which is the third and final kind of cornerstone of our Simply Pod foundation for success. You may recall as we've been working through this, we worked through product selection and pricing strategy. We worked through search engine optimization and keyword research so that you can target your audience and attract ideal buyer to your listings. And then we just covered the designs, using all of that we've learned so far to create designs that will attract buyers in our target audience and create mock-ups that will capture their attention and stop the scroll once we start to appear in their search results. All of this has been done so that you can feel confident with these basic concepts and then build on that within your shop so that you can start integrating consistency and value and building traffic to your shop to continue that sustained success. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten about homework. We've got one here too, folks. So for this one, I want you to take action. We've gone through all of this work together with worksheets and strategies and lists and figuring out what's trending and what we feel like we can design for and relate to. Now I want you to take action. Make a batch of 5 designs. based on one of the niches you already identified in the previous modules. Create mock-up batches for all 5 of those designs. And I want you to list those 5 new designs and products in your shop using optimized titles and tags and descriptions, because this is all about putting it all together. And if you're still not quite feeling confident in putting all those pieces together, I've got an upcoming video that will do a full shop setup and walk you through from beginning to end, creating your Etsy shop, integrating it with a print provider, getting that first listing up, and getting those real basics covered in a walkthrough fashion. And then make sure you stick around, because the second half of our modules are all about building that sustainable success with strategies that you integrate with the rest of what we've already learned. I'm super excited to jump into those modules. Make sure you're subscribed, and I'll see you on the next one.